Okay, I'm gonna start. This is a series of videos I'm gonna do chronicling the. Um, this is a series of videos I'm gonna do, probably just 3 or 4 at the most, where I will be discussing how they've used us to keep the balance of power with them. And we have been told erroneously in school that we contributed to our own freedom when that is a bald-faced lie. All we've contributed to this country is we built up their kingdom and we've kept the balance of power with them. Okay. Everyone knows Mark 3:25-27. Um, See, the problem is we first have stopped acknowledging who the strong man is in this particular instance. And instead of calling on the Most High to bring them down, what our people have done is accepted everything that they've told us and made them our God. And the reality of it is that the entire planet worships the white man. And that is his curse and only blessing he has, besides the ability to destroy, to kill, steal, and destroy. And he thinks that somehow that's going to last forever. Well, eventually people will realize how these other nations are beginning to realize how they've been used as pawns to keep the balance of power. Because if you notice, anybody's paid attention, in the Middle East, they still have a gold standard, and in many of the Asian countries except China and Japan, but they basically have a gold standard. So while some people might lament why they pay so little for certain things, especially in the Middle East, well, when your money is backed by gold, or gold can be used as a form of currency, hello, things are lower. I know that a lot of people are collecting gold, but you're not collecting real gold. Most of these golds, the gold that they give you, if they give you a 1 ounce coin, trust me, you're not getting one unless you paid I think it's 1,800 now. You're not getting an ounce of gold. $35 will not get you an ounce of gold. It might get you 0.00002 ounces of gold, and that's about it. I did the calculations already. Haha. But we think that we can come into that we can be equal in another man's kingdom. You don't let a stranger, no man is going to let a strange man come in his house and have equal access to his wife and children that he has. That's just not going to happen. Okay? He's not going to, a reasonable man is not going to let another man come into his house, have his way with his wife, and be able and to have the same authority over his children. It's just not going to happen with a reasonable man. Now, if that man acts like or has been beat down so bad by the other man coming into his home, then he really doesn't have much choice, because he himself is beholden to that man, and anything that he has or owns is the one that comes and conquers him. He has no more authority. Okay? And that is what has happened with the black folks. When we decided to accept other gods, we opened ourselves up. And people, if you're in these church systems, you have accepted another God. Okay, and then the women wonder why they can't get married. And they wonder why things are all twisting it upside down. There are spiritual ramifications for anything you do intentionally to reject the one person, the one person that we have to go to. Okay? Now, I have a chessboard up here. The reason being is because you have to look at everything the way it's going as a game. The ones that rule do not care whether it's good or evil. It's still the same game. Witchcraft is witchcraft whether it's black or white magic. It's all the same. And remember, I'm talking spiritually speaking here. Okay? If you are not with the Most High, the ones ruling have to be with the one given authority to rule the left hand. If you're not with the one right hand, everyone else is just there. Everyone else is just there. All right? It's a game of two people playing. But in this case, because we're no longer in the picture technically right now, we're under the authority of them. They don't care what side we're on, black or white, as long as we continue to give them praise and continue to give them worship for anything they give us. Okay? To preface what I'm about to talk with is we have to understand that every single charter and colony, regardless of the country, whether it was from Northland, the Dutch, or if it was from British, Spain, Portugal, France, Germany, it did not matter where, or Italy. Well, Italy didn't really do, they got out of colonizing business during their reign. Okay? But either way, all authority, regardless of the country, the patent goes, or the request goes to the high courts of their country from the various individual companies, private companies with investors, and then they would take that information and it would go to the Vatican for final approval. Okay? And each company was required to produce a certain amount of product and a certain amount of funds to pay back the church and where they got their charter or colony from. Okay? Every time they stepped foot or laid claim on a piece of land here, they would always bring a priest or a preacher. Does not matter whether you were Catholic, which just simply means, it's the same thing as universal. All right? Like the United Baptists, all that bull crap. It's all the same. Or whether you are Protestant, you're still working from the same premise of a red people, a Neanderthal, as your God. And you're worshiping Neanderthals right now. Okay? Or Neanderthal, as the British would say. Alright. But it always came, they would send out the priest and the warriors and their flag to lay claim and put up a cross, a flag, and they would either label a rock or put some other notification that this was their land. Also, the amount of time that it took to come from Africa or from Europe to here was a lot shorter than they tell us. What people don't understand is that a lot of times they would just go up and down the coast until they found a specific date in which they were allowed, according to their calendars of dedication days, to land. So while it might have taken, let's say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to actually get over here, they might linger out in the waters for an additional 3 or 4 weeks or a month or two, waiting for a specific star calendar day. They would look at the stars. They always had navigators, stargazers that would come with them. Okay? I'm just laying the groundwork here, okay? And then they would come, they would bring their warriors, they would bring their priests, and they would bring the people that would be the governors, or that would tell the other workers what to do and how much they were supposed to do it. And of course, this was always called the New World. All right? The New World has always been here as far as they are concerned, because they were going to make a new Europe. That's basically what they did, was they created a new kingdom for them. I'm not really going to get into the thanks-taking aspects of things, but understand this image was false also. Completely false. Because they have to maintain their authority over any and everyone they come in contact. I'm going to start off with Nathaniel Bacon. Everyone heard of the Bacon Rebellion of 1676. Basically, just like the Boston Tea Party, what had happened was, was that the king made a treaty with the indigenous people in Virginia. I believe it was Virginia. And made a decree that they were no longer to expand into their territory. Well, the people of that region didn't like that, because the way it worked here is, if you were a surveyor of land, which a lot of people that came here were, if you surveyed that land, sent the patent for it, and got a patent for that land was yours. That was riches to you. That's the same thing that happened with George Washington and all that. The Tea Party, they said it was because of improper taxation. No, it was because of a treaty that the people here did not want to have to abide by. Because remember, the natives, or the so-called Native Americans, were considered savages, when in reality, the savages were the ones that came over. But they got upset that the governor that was selected above them was allowed to had told the people this is what the treaty is, so they created a scrimmage that we're not going to obey this law. And of course, the crown wanted to exert its authority, gave in and said, well, okay, we're not going to obey the treaty, because when push came to shove, they will keep unity with each other regardless of what other promises they made to somebody else. They don't care, as long as they stay united. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. All right. Now, this is just a preference of how everything goes. When I come back next time, I will give you more information of how they used us, because we weren't really used during this time. Okay? It comes a little bit later. Now, but also keep in mind, we are just pawns in the keeping the balance of power with them. The Native Americans still haven't figured that one out yet. Okay? And to be perfectly honest, most of them that claim to be Native American, I don't believe they are. I do believe the ones that are hidden and are told, "Oh, you're black, you're not," or "you're black," or "you're not a indigenous person here." Please, please. When you consider that a lot of white men, they had to enact laws preventing white men from leaving the colonies because women weren't coming at first. Okay, that's where the mail order mess came in. But they had to enact laws to prevent the red men from leaving and going to live amongst the indigenous people. And a lot of times, the women had no fathers, no brothers, and so they would marry. Because if they had children, they had to, there weren't enough people, just a bunch of old men and young boys. I'm sorry, a 30-year-old woman is not going to marry a 10-year-old. Not going to happen. Okay? And if she might have had a 10-year-old, she had to take care of. He's not old enough to go out and help provide enough food to bring back and to protect the surrounding area. So yeah, the white men took advantage of that. Because remember, with the indigenous people, the white folks would come raid the area, and if the indigenous people fought back, "You stomped my toe," and then the white people would come out in force and pretty much annihilate every fighting male they could get a hold of, and destroy as many females as they could get a hold of, especially if they were pregnant. So this is a really big story, but I'm going to try to keep it down as short as I can. I know I'm rambling right now, but there's so many thoughts going on in my head right at this particular moment because we don't take into account where do we fit in all of this. And I've always pondered, where do my people fit in? If we have been truly free, where's my land? Why didn't my ancestors get paid for their labor? Even just the ones that were alive at the time, why didn't they get paid for their labor? I'm going to get into that too. How all that worked. Okay? Like I said, they're going to do anything to keep the balance of power with themselves, no matter who they have to destroy to do so.